Hello, friends. It is Mailbag Monday. That's when I dive into this beautiful box and I pull out your questions on cards and answer them. I do want to start by reminding you I am not a doctor. I cannot treat, diagnose, or prescribe, nor do I want to do those things. I am also not your personal wellness professional. So I cannot answer questions of a highly personal nature. And if there are some questions that come through that could potentially be personal and there may be some value, I will answer it with the disclaimer that it is not personalized. It is merely for education. I'll put the link down below in case you have any questions that you want to ask me. All right, so starting with today's first question is fermenting tomatoes. I am fermenting tomatoes with real salt. Is it okay to do this if the tomatoes are cracked? And what about if they have brown spots? So I happen to love real salt. It's got some minerals in it, which is great. However, I do feel that while using real salt is fine, it does depend on how much you're putting in. So you need to make sure you have enough of a brine in there. So you need to make sure your ratio is right. I'm also really not a fan of using cracked, bruised, squashed, or brown spotted anything when canning, because that means it's started to break down a little bit and we don't want any potential bacteria that's in there to get into what you're canning. So if it is cracked or bruised or has brown spots or whatever, I would encourage you to consider, as long as there's no mold or it doesn't smell bad, you could potentially cut out those spots and eat it. If there is mold, especially on soft things like tomatoes, you need to just throw it out because those mold spores could seep through and you might not see it, but it would be in there. So we always want to make sure that we have the best possible fresh, firm produce for canning and preserving. And we also want to make sure that with soft foods that there's no mold or no black stuff or funky looking stuff going on there. Okay, next question. We had two produce questions this week. Garlic. How long does garlic last? That's actually a really good question because there's a lot of different ways to keep garlic. I know a lot of people like to go to the grocery store and they buy that big tub of chopped garlic and they just scoop from that all the time because it's already chopped for you. Why wouldn't you use it? I don't happen to be a fan of that because nutritionally, it's really not the best choice. It has oxidized and some of the nutrition has broken down. It's not as good a choice. The absolute best choice is fresh garlic. So if you have a whole head, that's the big paper covered thing, and it has lots of little bumps on it. That, if stored properly in a cool, dark, dry space, so it's good environment, that can last up to 6 months. Over time, that last month, some of those cloves may start to dry out a little bit and shrivel or shrink. So really, I don't encourage you to leave a whole head of garlic just sitting there for 6 months. Use it. Use it every day. Throw it into a lot of things that you're making. Garlic is great. It's delicious. It's good for us. And it's really wonderful to use in food. If you break apart that head and you have the cloves and they're still wrapped in their little paper envelopes, for lack of a better word, that will last 1 week unpeeled. So if you're breaking down a head of garlic, think about, I find there's usually somewhere between 16 to 18 cloves in a head. And so make sure that you know what you're going to be using because once you start breaking it up, they're only good for about a week. If you've peeled the garlic cloves, so you've separated them from the head and you've taken the paper off, the clove, that's good for about a week in the refrigerator. And then it just starts to shrink up and it's not as good and nutritionally, it's not as much benefit to it. So use your garlic, use it all the time. All right. And last question, bath salts. I stayed at a hotel. They provided bath salts with lavender and ylang in them. Lovely. And the first ingredient was sodium chloride. Is this okay? That's actually a really good question. First of all, I love that your hotel provided you with some bath salts and that they used essential oils, lavender and ylang happen to be two very calming, soothing oils. So that's lovely. Sodium chloride. So chemically, sodium chloride is L, it's salt, just salt. I don't know what else was in the package because you didn't tell me. I'm assuming that there was potentially some Epsom salts as well in there. So Epsom salt is MgSO4 7H2, and I did have to look that up. That's why I'm looking at the back of the card. It has magnesium, sulfur, oxygen, and water in it. And the magnesium and the sulfur are part of what make Epsom salts such a relaxing thing to have in the bath, and why it's so soothing to your skin and to your system. I frequently encourage people who have a hard time sleeping to consider taking what I call a detox bath and soaking in Epsom salts. I'll put a link down below for that. But there is a difference between sodium chloride and Epsom salts. So hopefully there was also some Epsom salt in that bath formulation that you were soaking in at your hotel. So those are this week's questions for Mailbag Monday. And as I said, I will put the link down below, but if you have questions you would like me to answer, please share them. I would love to hear what is on your mind and what you would like to know more about. Thanks, folks, and have a great day. Bye.